What's up? I'm Timmy Hayes. Welcome to my channel. This is mainly a music channel. Occasionally, I post vlog videos where I just kind of talk about whatever's on my mind. So, I had, well, a friend of mine, uh, he asked me if I felt kind of like I was putting out bad vibes with some of my music, or he asked me if I worried about what people would think about me and if I seem unstable with some of the music I put out because I put out some I write about depression or suicidal ideation, or sometimes I incorporate dark elements into my work. Um, and that's something I've done for a long time, and I'm actually trying to get more away from that starting soon, because I really enjoy kind of cheesy happy stuff too. So I'm going to go more in that direction soon. But I told him I'm just writing and making what I feel, and he asked me like, "Oh, do you feel this way? And like, should we be worried about you?" And my friends who are close to me, who know me, know that generally speaking, I'm a pretty positive guy, and I make friends pretty easily most of the times. And sometimes, yeah, like emotions can get the better of us, but I've come to the realization as I've gotten older. Uh, Emotions are like signals. They're like they're instincts to, and this is something I learned back when I took some psychology classes in university, that there's actually a biological reason why we have emotions. It's a survival mechanism to tell us that, like, like if we think about instinct, like let's say someone throws a punch at you, right? And most of the times you're not going to think like, "Oh, this person's throwing a punch at me. I better duck and or slip the punch and move out of the way." Like you're just going to do it. It happens in a split second. That's instinct. Like it's pre-programmed animal urge in you. So that's not to say like, there's misfirings in that. Like the two for flinching kind of thing, right? Someone acts like they're gonna throw a punch at you, and you still like flinch, even though like they can even tell you like, "I'm not really gonna punch you. I'm just gonna move like this, so don't flinch." And they'll be like, "Ugh," and you'll still like, "Ugh," flinch anyway, because that's how powerful instinct is. And it can be the same way for emotions, like and I've felt stuff like this. Let's say like sexual instinct is a really strong one, and all the romantic emotions we feel, it's a powerful urge, like to want to couple with someone, right? And I see that online a lot. There's or even in person. I have and I've felt stuff like that where it's like I need this person, and you can't see past the person. And I've become very within the past few years. Actually, the biggest turning point for me was being in a long term relationship that lasted several years, and actually having a long term partner. And I lived with them, and it was a very serious relationship, and that was a big turning point for me because one, it made me realize like you don't need anyone. You're with them because you want to be with them, right? And then the biggest thing was you're not your emotions. Like uh, great advice is always like, when you feel something, take a step back and think about what you're feeling. Like, yes, that emotional instinct can be useful, and there's that saying, listen to your gut. That can serve you in many situations. Like, it can help you recognize that something's wrong, or that there's something um, that you need to pay attention to, and there's certain clues, like, but sometimes, like, you read too much into those emotions, or you let those emotions rule your judgment, and that shouldn't be the case. Like, so I this is kind of an embarrassing story for me, but I'm gonna say it because I feel like it's important. Me and my friend, this happened a little while ago. He's a good looking guy, or at least he seems to be popular with the ladies. And we were at a bar, and some girl was saying that I was attractive to my friends. So I went up, excuse me, I went up to her and I talked with her, and it was obvious, like, whatever I had said, it was whatever, there was no vibe, right? So I could feel that, and I was like, all right, like, okay. And then she actually ended up with my friend, and he was very worried that it had upset me and blah, blah, blah. Whatever, like, um, it was fine, I'm not gonna lie. There's a little part of me that's like, oof, but that kind of shit happens. You don't vibe with someone, and you just gotta be like, all right, like it just wasn't meant to be, whatever. And they vibe with this other person more. But later in the night, it was actually for the best because she was very cool, and she was very friendly. We all. Talked and kind of became buddies and stuff, and so I had found it interesting, so I was like, okay, so what was it that made you gravitate towards my friend more? And she told this, and I don't think she's gonna watch this, so like, and maybe she won't even know I'm talking about her in the first place, but like, she said that it was and there's this stereotype, like the first 5 seconds, when you meet someone, the first impression that they get will determine whether they want to fuck with you or not. And I don't even mean that in a romantic sense. I mean that, like, in any kind of relationship, like business or friendship or whatever. And she says that that's what did it. Like, in the first 5 seconds, like, she said I seemed desperate, or I wanted it too much, and I should have, like, said hi and then acted like I wanted someone else or whatever. And I'm like, okay, like, there's a lot of people that like that push and pull dynamic. I'm not really into that. If I'm into you, I'm gonna show that I'm into you. If I want you, I'm gonna show that I want you. And now I'm with someone who, there wasn't really any push and pull, and we were a much better fit. So it turned out for the best. But it got me thinking a lot about people who embrace that kind of first 5 second mentality, and I don't agree that you should do that, because you don't, and maybe, and anyone can approach their relationships, and especially romantic relationships, however they see fit. If that's how you want to do things, hey, more power to you, whatever. What I'm saying is that the reason why we date and shit, right, is to get to know people. And if you're deciding to base relationships on a first initial reaction, then that's poor judgment, because that's going purely based on a flash, an emotional instinct that happens right away. Now, it sounds like like I said, it was an embarrassing story for me, and I hesitate to bring it back to my original point about emotions, because I don't want to come across as like I'm judging her, and I the way I see it, that girl in the bar who winded up with my friend, is we were not compatible, and she was far more compatible with my friend, which is fine. It's great. But I thought about it a lot, and I did feel certain insecurities based on that night, and I was trying to analyze my own emotions as well as whatever had happened. So, and that ties into something I've talked about in my previous videos about someone I had kind of dated briefly. I was still trying to analyze that and figure that out. It's difficult navigating interpersonal relationships, especially in the midst of everything we feel, right? I'm not saying that we should purely be logical and analytical in determining our relationships or friendships, because that doesn't work either, because I've done that too, where I had no feelings for someone, or rather the relationship had soured and it was time for it to end, but on paper, logically, it seemed good, you know? And we can't do that either because, like I said, emotions are there for a reason. Like, it's important that we do listen to them, but we should also be balanced. Like, I don't approach things from a first impression kind of view, because even there's someone who I met, right? And when I first saw them, I didn't think they were attractive. I was like, I'm not into your looks, whatever. But as I got to talk to them, they seemed more attractive to me because of their personality and their thoughts. And that's part of growing up and being an adult. Looks are important, right? Like, that's part of sexual attraction. And I do believe, like, you should be with someone that you find at least passively sexually attractive. But the most sexually attractive person that I have dated versus this person, like, it was no competition, because the personality, I was much more compatible with this person. So perhaps, like, the initial emotion was, or the initial, because when you first see someone, you're going off of pure looks pretty much, and that's where you're gonna feel like that hot feeling of attraction. And what I'm saying is, like, there needs to be a balance, right? And we should take into account whatever we feel plus logic, not one or the other. And in that sense, I suppose, like, now in my adult relationships, I've been able to manage them a lot better. Um, so, like, I was pretty insecure, especially as a teenager and as a young adult. I would question myself a lot, and that would express itself and show that I wasn't confident in myself. But um, yeah, like, now, the way I see it now is just I base things on compatibility. Like, if someone's not attracted to you or doesn't want to fuck with you, like, yes, don't get me wrong, there are social blunders you can make and mistakes you make that need to be corrected. But when you're sure of yourself and you've thought about those kind of things, then it becomes a matter of compatibility. And it's just fact. Like, you're not going to be compatible with everyone. Let's take the most attractive men and women in the world that we see as the most attractive. There's lists all online, and they're all, like, in disagreement. I remember there was a whole, like, Blake Shelton was voted the sexiest man on some magazine, right? And a lot of people were like, "What?" But a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I see it." So, like, it all depends, right? It depends on what's going on, and that's not to say that you can't put in effort and make yourself more attractive. You can exercise and take care of yourself and things like that, and work on being a more amiable person. Those are all important traits, but hey, like, different people are attracted to different things. That's just the fact of life. Like, Whereas some people might like a quiet, reserved person. Some people will like a boisterous and very animated person. It all depends, right? And I suppose it all depends on what you want. So um, being yourself is important, but being your best self is important too. So uh, I've become much happier and more assured in my life, not letting my emotions rule me, and because I'm a very emotional person. So like letting emotions come, recognizing them, and then letting them pass, and then thinking about your situation and why you felt that way. It's a much better way to handle life, and recognizing that emotions will come and go, and just like there's some Instagram pages I follow where it's like mental health post, and there was one that said like it's okay to feel sad losing someone even though you know what you did was right. And that's kind of the way I felt about certain decisions I had made. Like I think I talked about it in a previous video. There was a person I kind of dated, and um, then I saw that it wasn't working out, so I said let's end it. And I was really into them, but I knew it was like bad for me, and it still sucked. It sucked a lot, and I thought about it for a long time, and I felt sad about it for a long time. But um, like I said, even that sadness, it would come in waves. So it would be like recognize it, acknowledge it, and let it go. And that's I'm putting this mainly in the context of relationships, like romantic relationships. But my father died like almost a year ago now. So that's something that I'm when I first talked about it in a previous video, I couldn't really talk about it, but now I can talk about it because the emotions that I felt, they're not always there. They come and go in waves, and it's you know grief and sadness are not like they're painful, but they're beautiful things to feel because they show that there was something important there, and that the loss that we feel, it shows that it it mattered. Sorrow is poignantly beautiful, and even now, like talking about it, I feel a sense of sorrow and sadness, but I embrace what I feel, and I that's not to say I'm going to let it cripple me or rule me, or I'm going to get lost in feeling these things. And there's nothing I can do in the context of my father's death, but going back to romantic or interpersonal relationships, like those are decisions that we can make. Like, yeah, occasionally, like I may feel a sense of melancholy or a tinge of sadness thinking about like past relationships that were lost, but that does not mean that I'm going to message the people and be like, "Oh, I miss you," and like when it's time to move on, it's time to move on, right? And it's okay to feel like the long term relationship I had. Like I feel like it would be psychotic not to occasionally reminisce and feel a tinge of sadness because like I had been with this person for years and we had a lot of great times together, a lot of bad times too, but it would be crazy not to feel like anything looking back. um, but that's not to say like yeah, to me it would be more crazy getting back in touch with that person because we had our time, we both moved on, and although I wish her the best and everything, um, it wouldn't be extremely unhealthy to reestablish connection. So emotions are trying to tell us something. But how much you let them rule you is how much you let them rule you. Like, it's all within your power. We are not even our minds. We are not our minds. We are not our bodies. We are not our emotions. We are a combination of all these things. And we can find balance within these combinations to create a better and more perfect version of ourselves. So I hope that this has been of some use to you, and thank you for listening. Peace out.